Before I really elaborate on a couple ideas that were brought up in the higher self portion, I want to take a minute to just connect with my authentic relating practice and tune into how it feels for me to have shared that and to reveal that to you. So, as I was editing, there were a few parts that were just strictly personal that I don't really feel carried value for others. But there obviously were parts that I did leave in. And when I was listening to some of those parts, I noticed in myself a resistance and a desire to be like, I don't need to know about that. Let's just keep that hidden. I am going through my own process of having some nervousness about sharing the things that are very personal to me in my life path and what I've gone through, where I'm going, all of that stuff. Before I go into the circle, I actually want to begin to explain it through scuba diving. I am not a scuba diver at all, but my father-in-law just came back from Australia and he was explaining to us that colors start to fade out the deeper you go. And I had no idea. Even just 15 feet down, red becomes less visible. So you could be looking at a piece of coral and only see more hues that are maybe oranges and blues and greens. And after you go down even 25 feet, then you start to lose orange. 35 feet is yellow and around 70 feet is green. After hearing him explain that to me, so many things started to make sense about our own messages of light. Sometimes when we are 100 feet down, 150 feet down underwater, where we feel so separate from the surface, so separate from being able to see the sun, it almost feels like nothing can reach us. It almost feels like connection isn't possible anymore. One time I had a call with somebody. This person was about to commit suicide. And I realized that spectrum of blue light, it's almost like at the depths of the human experience, it gets so narrow. And to me, it felt like I was walking a tightrope to be able to stay in connection with her. Any moment that I would step just slightly off, I could feel her respond to that. If I used logic, if I tried to reason with her, if I tried to convince her, if I tried to pressure her in any way, it wasn't going to work. To walk this tightrope, this blue beam that is so hard to stay balanced on, you have to slow down. It's a lot like if you watch a squirrel walking across electrical wires. They don't run while they're on the wire. They really have to slow down to keep their balance. But if they do slow down, then they can make little corrections along the way and they can get all the way across. We can only go that far from our truth because there is no risk of ever losing and damaging our soul. And that's really hard to believe when you're in it. We have this experience where we perceive that that's possible so that we can learn and we can reach those depths of where the distortion lies, of where you are so lost and so separate that it feels impossible to have ever recovered from that. It feels impossible to ever enjoy life again. If we can stay with that beam and go deeper, it connects us from within so that we don't have to swim 150 feet up. Somehow it changes space and time so that we are just back on the surface again. There may be messages when you're going through things in life that can't reach you. And that's because the messages are coming in the wrong spectrum. It's not that those messages aren't helpful. It's just they're meant for a different experience. They're meant to be heard for those who can perceive the reds and the oranges and the yellows. But if you're in the green and the purple and the blue, that's where it just gets a little bit hard to actually benefit from something that is just love and light. So the goal, the idea, it's It's not to just stay at a height where you can perceive all the colors. There's actually tremendous value, incredible amounts of data and value that you get by going past that, by going into the depths of what you can possibly experience in this particular earth, because it has both light and dark. And this was the same concept that I was explaining in the Lifetime in Egypt. It's really this excitement of mastery. Right now, times are a lot more dense than they were at the very beginning of that descension. And so right now, I don't feel that excitement. Not even close to that level of excitement that I had in that lifetime. But now, at least, because of having that memory, I understand that this time has even more potential for us to heal things that could never be accessed before. The beginning of descension is almost like just going underwater a little bit. Before we were on top of the water, we could see the sun, we could breathe. It was, all of the different spectrums could reach us. But the descension is like, okay, now let's learn underwater. What can you get through this veil? And you can look up once you get close to the surface and you can see more of what's above the water. You can see that there's a sun sparkling up there, but there's still that veil. And that's really what this time is about. It's just about learning underwater instead of above water. Another way that I wanted to explain this is through the concept of the circle that I have alluded to in a couple of the videos while in this hypnotic state. This idea of the circle, I wanted to first explain the scuba diving for, because you can also see it as a circle of color spectrum. We have this idea of duality, of opposites, of one end of the spectrum being positive and the other end of the spectrum being negative. But what they showed me on this line is that the line actually bends and it meets. You have a point where the positive and the negative unite. And that is when you are once again remembering who you are. They actually first introduced it not as a circle, but they showed me the loop of this roller coaster at like a fair or a carnival. So what they were explaining to me is it's almost like I'm getting all the way right before it's about to loop around into the positive experience, but I disconnect. I basically separate from myself. And the way that comes through my experience is, okay, this has gotten out of hand. This is too much. I need to be strong now, and I need to walk myself back through this. There's value in that too, because I'm really comfortable going into the darkness. But I had become so comfortable with navigating that darkness that anytime I would get to that point, I would be like, okay, I can't go any lower. I need to pull myself out of this. And I was disconnecting from all the support that was around me. And I was feeling abandoned by the universe. I really was never alone. It's just that because of me disconnecting from my heart and my body, I couldn't perceive them around me. I can see sparks of light. I've always been able to. And when I am connected to my heart, when I'm in my emotions, when I'm not disconnecting from it and trying to be strong and left-brained, that is when I can still see those sparks of light, even if I'm crying, even if I'm sobbing, even if I'm processing and releasing and moving out density. But as soon as I am disconnecting from it and just going into different thought patterns, I just don't perceive that anymore. This is really what it's about. It's about trying to recover your color palette. And that's why I was explaining that scuba diving, because these are all different spectrums of light. And if you have a floor and if you have a ceiling that doesn't allow you to access this top half of the circle, then you can only paint so much. There's a difference between avoiding the darkness, and there's a difference between having gone through all of the darkness, having recovered your color palette, and then choosing to stay in high vibration. That is really what was coming through in this third part, where I was interacting with my higher self. They were explaining that I've recovered my color palette. I have gotten that last piece. And it was really, really difficult. I remember the instance that popped up, and it felt very much like walking a tightrope again. Once I was able to do that, they showed me how I cleared up that distortion. I'd been trying to remember my power. I'd been trying to find how do we go through something unwanted? How do we face reality, not resist it, but welcome it and still have power? How is this an active process? How is it that we have any kind of influence if we're just allowing reality to be what it is? And that is what was clarified in this test for me. It was showing me that power is not in resisting the darkness. It's not in resisting the unwanted. It's not in resisting negativity. It's not in resisting reality. Power is really in welcoming what is and finding your connection to your heart anyway, and being able to express from that place of connection. If you are in your logic, in your left brain, and subsequently, if you're just passive in your right brain and just, well, okay, like I'll figure it out, life will just keep going, neither of those are actually empowered. Those are still in a place of duality. It's only when you can come into the heart that you have power over reality, that you can actually do what I had talked about in these other videos of being able to receive something that has forgotten its knowing, it has forgotten its potential, it has forgotten possibility, and being able to project something even more true back. So that is the entire idea of the circle. There's a little bit more. They've also showed how you can turn it this way and it becomes a sine wave. It turns into a spiral, essentially. And that is what is actually the experience of time and space. So that's a whole other topic for another time. I just wanted to introduce it because really this is the process of mastery. It's really about, can you stay connected to your heart? Because as you do, you can travel anywhere on the circle and recover all of your colors. You can break through the ceilings. You don't have to be worried about the floor falling out from under you. If any of this resonated, if you found it valuable, please let me know with a comment. Please like and subscribe. I will be putting out other videos that will be information from clients and from my blog posts and anything else that comes up that I believe might offer some value. So thank you. I really appreciate the time that you've spent to get to this point and all of the work that you're doing in your life to also recover your color palette.
May I speak to the highest self of Katie, please?
Yes.
Her next question is regarding her car's transmission. She would like to know what's causing the distortion in the transmission and how to shift it.
There's an upgrade required. And she will feel sad about this, but it feels like an upgrade to a different vehicle. She really loves this vehicle. But it was made before 2012. The consciousness that it was designed with was the best that was available at that time. She really loves this car because it has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles on it, and she has gotten to go to so many places with it, and it is old and paid off, and it's so comfortable. And so it has been a friend to her, but it is outdated in its frequency. This is a metaphor for channeling. The transmission cannot come through without upgrades. The transmission cannot be clear. A shift is necessary. As she allows her energy to continue increasing its frequency, her transmissions will become more clear. They will work and they will function in the purest form because of the work that she has done to stay grounded and clear distortion. This shift for her and her channeling will happen naturally. The timing is by choice. It can come incrementally, it can come all at once, but it will most definitely occur before the shift of all. How soon is up to her, and she is taking steps to accelerate that timeline for herself.
Now, there's a consciousness that would like to be channeled through Katie. Can you give us some information on that consciousness or that collective that would like to come through Katie?
She is feeling energy shifting in her legs. There is movement occurring to up. Just little spots that have denser energy are just being shifted throughout the body. There is a feeling of expansion that she felt very often as a child, of feeling substantially larger than her body, or that she was something very small. It is all the same. And as these ceilings are penetrated, the expansion into higher frequency information will be natural. There is work being done on both ends to meet each other. The approach she has selected for this lifetime, by clearing distortions first, by doing inner work first, will allow for more powerful impact to be made. There are some who choose to come in retaining their channeling, and while the channeling may be pure, there is a disconnect in the vibration that people feel from the individual. Katie has chose to do it so that people will feel her vibration, and it will allow for the channeling to sink into them the way she has chosen, the way that it will be, will affect physicality more powerfully than just listening to a channeler. The impact will be multidimensional. We would like to remind her of Paul Selig and how when one reads his books and listens to his recordings, the lives change because of the amount of power and truth that can get through. Hers will not occur in quite the same way. She would not allow us to have it be so embarrassing. So that is okay. It will come in a way with a similar impact. Not through a series of books, but through live real-time impact that may evolve into many different things. But the impact will be likened to Christ and those who've just felt the energy. They did not have to comprehend the words. The transmission was made through the embodiment that Christ had of that frequency. It will be similar.
Wonderful. That's amazing. Will her light language come online prior to Jamie's course?
It is already starting to. It has always been there in a very, very squeezed hose. She has never lost it, but the 4% she has allowed has just been muffled. So there was never disconnection with this. It is coming first through tones. She has a range of very low tones and very high tones. She chose to come into this life with the vocal range that she has because it is the frequencies that she can hold. It is a reflection of the circle, of how deep she can go and how high she can go. The range is a manifestation of that. And so the tones and what does come through in different hertz frequencies will be able to affect more people than if the range was limited to angelic frequency. Her energy is very grounded. It has an aspect of those Lemurian crystals in it. This energy, this crystal energy, is very intricately connected to her, and it allows for her to embody and bring in even more because of her connection to the earth.
Now, she has questions regarding how to release debt, allow more abundance. So if you can give some information around that, that would be amazing.
This is residual energy from the desire to learn through lack. Residual from the completion that just occurred. This is very fresh, switching to learn through abundance now, to learn through love, to learn through raising frequency. Part of the agreement was to learn through lack, through disconnect, through separation, through hardship. She had already received this message about how the lack of financial resources was put in place because of the abundance of time and energy resources earlier in her life. It has honed her skill in choosing what is most worth her time and her focus. Much of her earlier years, she was interested in everything and would have been torn in all lateral directions without any real forward movement, if not for the restriction of finances. She now understands from the message we gave her recently that as her time, energy, and financial resources are now all balanced, the constraint of money and lack is no longer needed. And as she begins to move into raising her frequency, these things will naturally shift and change.
Fantastic. Is that part of what is needed to bring in the clients? Like ways that people can find her? I know marketing is a hard part of it for spiritual people.
The other block is with a slight resistance in her energy to QHHT. What feels better for her is being able to use her gifts to work more with the energy in people's sessions. And as she moves into this intention, shifting that orientation just 3 degrees, it will not only move that block for her of that restriction in the hose, but it will also attract different people. It will attract the people that will have sessions that are also supportive of her expansion, of her connecting the dots, of her putting things together for all, for the collective. The work of QHHT is important for her. There is a density of experience and a level of healing that she can help with, but it is not the best use of her time. Her best use of her time are those who are here for mastery, who are going through the hardest of life experiences, and are also on the spiritual path. That is where she feels the most fulfilled, and that is where she can bridge the gap. We have sent her some of these people. They have found her the individual whose mother was murdered and father imprisoned, the individual whose child died at 2 months. These came simultaneously within a week of each other to assist her in understanding why hardship happens and how it is all divinely orchestrated, working out the contracts that were set in place beforehand.
It came into my mind that it's outdated technology, just like the car. Meaning that consciousness has moved so much since then.
Yes, and this is what Dolores Cannon also wants. She never
Wonderful.
intended for QHHT to be outdated technology, and this is why she works with those who are stepping beyond it, as that is where her fulfillment comes from. Her excitement and her passion lies in pushing into the cutting edge of going into the beyond, of seeing the possibilities of shifting timelines and understanding time in an evolving way as the collective scientific discoveries change. This is why Dolores, in part, left when she did. There are many other reasons, but part of it is so that she could work with time and help practitioners understand how to do so as well.
Wonderful. She's a lovely soul. All right. Now, she has a question regarding her connection with Christ consciousness.
This is the destiny of this lifetime. That is why she has chosen the name she came in with. as a reminder of destiny to become Christed from within. It is connected to the 144,000 souls. She saw the lifetimes today to remind her of embodying a frequency that was even higher than Christ consciousness. It is different. The power of the Christ consciousness in his time was much more powerful and much more mastery required than when she was in Lemuria, Atlantis, and Kemet. Although she has experienced frequencies higher than the Christ consciousness, it is the mastery that is what is admired by all. To do that, even in a situation that it seems impossible. It is the mission. It is the destiny. It will be experienced. And it has been difficult for her because it is not incremental. She has not been getting consistent doses. And to this we will say, it is the spiral Fibonacci sequence. While you are far out, moving far distances, you are moving even further than when you start to get closer to the center. The distance you have traversed was not in vain. The distance you have traversed was necessary to get you to here, where we will say the doses will again not be incremental because they will be consistent, unpredictable, perfect, and everlasting. She is moving into the center of the spiral. The Fibonacci spiral is a metaphor for her moving into the frequency of her heart. It is the toroidal field, much like the white toroidal field we were having her travel at the very beginning of this. She is moving closer and feeling the momentum. It was only a matter of time.
I'd like to know, what does it mean to be chosen one? Or what do they mean by chosen one?
And this has been planned over many, 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 many lifetimes. And when this first came into her awareness, it came through others telling her. She did not believe it or feel it. She knew it was possible, but she could not resonate with that. While she was in Monument Valley last, her grandmother showed her, and she for the first time could feel it. She felt undeserving and confused on why she was chosen and why all of her ancestors could not be here at this time. She felt undeserving of their sacrifices, of the information that they had carried forward through the DNA. She can feel the gratitude and the sacrifice. She is also aware of the hiding that these things were kept in throughout thousands of years. People, and this is what has caused her to feel undeserving, and the pain and the grief that she feels, because she knows that many of these people, her ancestors, they did not know what they were carrying. They suffered because they agreed before incarnating to not activate their gifts. They agreed to keep it in hiding. And she sees the sacrifice that they made, the difficulty, the adversity, the pain, the hardship, so much that they went through that could have been alleviated for them individually if they just remembered what they were carrying. But it was not about them, just as it is not about her. It is about what this is doing for all, not just humanity. It is about the ripple effect that will take place across all timelines. In all. There is not a single place that will be untouched by what she will assist in bringing in. It is validated about the portal that souls are birthed through. being anchored in to our planet, into physicality. And this is what the 144,000 are here to do.
Now, we have alluded to the relationship and the children. And, they've had such a difficult time with his ex-wife, and just having all of the legal issues, and the children having such a hard time being stuck in the middle of all of this. Is there any information that you can give around this whole situation and how Katie can stay in her power and stay in a high vibrational place when the children are there and she is giving so much to these children?
She will learn in the immersive retreat in Costa Rica. This will be talked about. If somebody else doesn't bring it up, she will. And it will be a beautiful dialogue about how to stay connected with yourself, even if you're in a bad place, and be authentic about that in a way that is connecting with a child instead of hiding from a child. That is the difficulty she has encountered, because she feels this pressure of always being a role model, of always being on for them, which is also in part connected to what was discussed before this session with the lifetimes, where she had that sort of influence and ability to help others. We will also add that that lifetime is informed from this lifetime. They are all connected. That experience was only possible because of the work Katie is doing in this lifetime. And subsequently, as she works through this maintaining of a persona that may not be accurate in the moment, she is also learning how to hold that frequency more, because she is staying connected even as she falls in her frequency. And the connection to the heart is available all around the circle. There is not a single place that connection is not available to the heart and to guidance. And so as she is doing this work in this lifetime, she is also making it possible for that other lifetime to serve as much as it does. What we will say is that there has also been a desire for the soul to contemplate scenarios similar to Christ, where there was murder, there was injustice, there was everything that could go wrong going wrong. But in that, it was not going wrong, it was not in vain. It was all to prepare us for this time now. Though the effects may not be felt right away, the lessons that have been learned through the injustice, through the attempted murder, through the risk of life being lost, that Katie has seen up close and personal, through the children, through her love, and through the mother of the children, it has allowed for her to contemplate where that distortion is and where the mastery is. These things were hard at the time, and they did not have to be handled any differently than they were. These were up close and personal experiences that have allowed for her to unpack as time has continued, so that she may move into even more of her mastery, as the world will get very dark first before it gets light again. So this was, as she said, an initiation. What we will offer from a higher perspective. There is always a way for the light to find its way in. The darkness is not what is destined. You can go through any timeline. The darkness can manifest itself in many ways. The power is not in resisting the darkness. The power is in remembering the light, not in recalling it, but in becoming it again. She knows this, as there are times where she is in a high vibration. She feels no ill feelings towards the mother. It is just a matter of connecting again with the heart, even with those who don't seem to deserve it. And this is what Christ had done, and why he was a model for many. She is doing the work. She will find a way to assist the mother, whether it manifests as a physical conversation or just manifests as energetic healing. She will find that connection with her own forgiveness for that person. And she will be able to shift that energy for that individual once she remembers that the individual is also deserving of light. We would like to add about Ho'oponopono. There was a question about Hawaiian shamanism. This is something that Katie used to teach. This is something that stemmed from Lemuria. This is energy that has carried forward through the time because of its purity. It is her energy that she is remembering as she learns about Ho'oponopono. She has had downloads. She has clarified it even more than what is being shared currently today. She can work with this even further. This is part of the beauty that will unfold on her path, as she can talk about these firsthand examples of forgiving somebody for murder, forgiving somebody from threat of life, from harming children, from all of the things that seem unforgivable. She will be able to teach others in not only how to move through that for themselves, but how to shift and interpret energy before they presume these thoughts are theirs. She will show another layer. She will point and shine light on the subtle to assist people in understanding what Ho'oponopono does throughout each dimension. She, again, this stems from Lemuria and from the vibration she had access to. And it also stems from that lifetime in Kemet, where they worked with density and the ideas of forgiveness were being born. Prior in Lemuria, there was a purity, but in Kemet, when density began to express through the dissension of consciousness, forgiveness became a concept that was necessary. And through the connection that they had to source through these other lifetimes, they were able to teach forgiveness in its purest form with the deeper understanding of why it would be necessary for this time. She had Hawaiian lifetimes working as an indigenous teacher who could remember these lessons, who could remember Kemet and other lifetimes where these teachings were maintained. The Hawaiian shaman lifetimes were repeated, and each time she was able to recall the previous and the previous and the previous. This is part of why she loves Hawaii, besides the Lemurian connection, and why it serves her to spend time there, reconnecting with the air that was breathed in and out then. The argon has carried on and can be breathed in and out again now. It is the same element being exchanged in the lungs. She will unfold more as time continues to answer the question of Ho'oponopono and the Hawaiian and Egyptian connection.
I did miss a question regarding, she had a dream suggesting that she work with Pele to allow more abundance in. Is that in alignment? She's asking, why did she have that dream and the relevance of it?
Yes. Pele is the goddess of the volcano. She can transmute. She is a master of transmutation as she serves Gaia herself. Pele can work with Katie, and Katie can learn from Pele about transmutation of blocks, of distortion, of separation. We asked for Katie to work with Pele because there will come a time where she must transmute and face demonic presences. She will only have this happen when she is ready. It will not happen before she could succeed. We are having her train with Pele to become one with transmutation, just as we will have her work with Christ consciousness to stay in the heart as she does so. We will share just that for now. The rest will unfold with time as she spends more of it in Hawaii.
Wonderful. Now, is there any other information that we may not have asked about that would like to come forward?
The calling of this retreat was not just to pull people together to have fun. Monument Valley, the Four Corners, called Katie and others in. It is in service to Mother, and in return for the service of what is being given to the Mother, she will return the favor with activating remembrance The frequency of home will be felt. Not just here, home on Earth, but the home of Source. This is tied to the timeline of the Sphinx being discovered. This is part of why she was called, because she knows about the Sphinx. It is nearby the Four Corners, which is not very far from Monument Valley. The energy they're interacting with and the work that they will be doing. Those who are being called to attend will shift the timeline, preparing for the discovery of the Sphinx. It
That's
will
amazing.
also, this is not the direct impact. The direct impact is on the indigenous. In that area, it is on Navajo Nation, and as Navajo Nation, which remembers but has lost much of its way. As the impact is felt there by those who still have connection to their intuition, which they all do, they will shift the energy, and it will have a domino effect that will speed up the discovery of that Sphinx, which has information that will benefit post critical mass point. The Anasazi were being worked with by extraterrestrials. It is the same extraterrestrials that worked with Lemuria, sharing the same information. That area, the American Southwest, has information that has seemingly been lost, but is stored in the bones, in the physicality of those who were Anasazi. It is in your bones. It is in Kitty's bones. It is in the bones of those who will be called to the retreat, and many, many others. Work with the bones. You will remember more.
Well, thank you for that information. Now, may we do a body scan for Katie to check if there are any ailments, any healing that is able to be done at this time?
She was born with heart murmur. That never crosses her mind. It is that the heart remembers. This particular organ carried with it memory. And though it murmured, it has a lot more to say. It will be revealed when the frequency is a match. The heart knows. There is nothing else in the body scan that is pressing in any way.
We thank you, highest self, so much for all the information and healing that has come through. Very much value you and appreciate all of your insights. We're going to bring your light body back to your physical body now. Just bringing your energy back to your physical form, all of your renewed and